Justice Aisha Malik on Monday took oath as the first woman judge of Pakistan's Supreme Court in what can be described as a watershed moment in the judicial history of the conservative Muslim majority country. Chief Justice Gulsar Ahmad administered the oath to 55-year-old Justice Malik in a ceremony held at the ceremonial hall of the Supreme Court, which was attended by a large number of apex court judges, the Attorney General, lawyers, officials of the Law and Justice Commission, and others. Talking to reporters after the ceremony, Chief Justice Ahmad said that Justice Malik was competent enough to become a Supreme Court judge and that no one deserves any credit for her elevation. Information Minister Fawad Chaudhry congratulated Justice Aisha on her landmark elevation. A powerful picture symbolizes women empowerment in Pakistan, Fawad tweeted alongside the picture of oath-taking ceremony, adding that he hopes Justice Aisha will be an asset to country's judicial hierarchy. Eyebrows were raised when Justice Malik was picked for the top slot despite being fourth on the seniority list of judges of the Lahore High Court. Her nomination was rejected last year by the Judicial Commission of Pakistan. But the commission earlier this month approved her with a narrow majority of 5 to 4 when her name was brought up for the second time for consideration. Reportedly, heated discussions preceded the nomination session, which lasted nearly 3.5 hours. Armenian President Armen Sarkisian tendered his resignation on Sunday, saying he believes the country's constitution does not give him sufficient powers to influence events. Sarkisian, president since 2018, was in standoff with Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan last year over a number of issues including the dismissal of the head of armed forces. The role of Prime Minister is seen as more powerful than that of a president. I have been thinking for a long time. I have decided to resign from the post of President of the Republic after working actively for about 4 years, Sarkisian said in a statement published on the President's official website. The question may arise as to why the President failed to influence the political events that led us to the current national crisis. The reason is obviously again the lack of appropriate tools, the Constitution. The roots of some of our potential problems are hidden in the current basic law, he added. At a referendum in December 2015, Armenia became a parliamentary republic while presidential powers were significantly curtailed. Sarkisian, in his statement, did not refer directly to any particular events or issues. Armenia agreed a ceasefire with Azerbaijan last November at their border after Russia urged them to step back from confrontation following the deadliest clash since a 6-week war in 2020 when Moscow also brokered a peace deal to end the hostilities. Prime Minister Pashinyan has since been under pressure with regular street protests demanding the step down over the terms of the peace agreement. Under the deal 2020 by Russia, Azerbaijan regained control of territory it had lost during a war in the early 1990s. Many Armenians accuse the government of corruption and mishandling an economy that has struggled to overcome the legacy of central planning. The COVID-19 booster drive in the US is losing steam. Varying health experts who have pleaded with Americans to get an extra shot to shore up their protection against the highly contagious Omicron variant. Just 40% of fully vaccinated Americans have received a booster dose, according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. And the average number of booster shots dispensed per day in the US has plummeted from a peak of 10 lakh in early December to about 4.9 lakhs as that of last week. Also, a new poll from the Associated Press NORC Center for Public Affairs Research found that Americans are more likely to seek the initial vaccinations rather than a booster as essential. It is clear that the booster effort is falling short. Jason Schwartz, a vaccine policy expert at Yale University. Overall, the US vaccination campaign has been sluggish. More than 13 months after it began, just 63% of Americans are fully vaccinated with the initial rounds of shots. Mandates that could raise those numbers have been hobbled by legal challenges. Vaccination numbers are stagnant in states such as Wyoming, Idaho, Mississippi, and Alabama, which have been hovering below 50%. The need for all Americans to get boosters initially was debated by scientists, and at first, the government recommended that only certain groups of people, such as senior citizens, get additional doses. The arrival of Omicron and additional evidence about falling immunity showed more clearly a widespread need for boosters. Former Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Monday denied reports he had reached a deal with prosecutors that would force him to quit politics and vowed to remain leader of his Likud party. Netanyahu, who served as Prime Minister from 2009 to until last year, is on trial for bribery, fraud, and breach of trust allegations he has denied. His legal team has been negotiating a plea deal with Israel's Attorney General that, according to Israeli media reports, included an admission to offense of moral turpitude, which would have carried a mandatory 7-year ban from politics. In recent days, false claims have been published in media about things I allegedly agreed to. For instance, the claim I agree to moral turpitude that is simply incorrect, Netanyahu said in a statement. I will continue to lead Likud, he added in comments that may dampen speculation about his potential looming exit from the political stage. Netanyahu, currently the opposition leader in parliament, is accused of accepting improper gifts and seeking to trade regulatory favors with media moguls in exchange for favorable coverage. His trial is expected to last several more months. An appeal process, if necessary, could take years. The coalition government that ousted him in June, led by Prime Minister Naftali Bennett, was largely forged through common antipathy towards Netanyahu among a group of ideologically disparate parties. Political experts have said that Netanyahu's departure from politics and right-wing Likud's election of a less controversial leader could spell trouble for the coalition, as it would struggle to hold together in the absence of its main unifying force. Prime Minister Boris Johnson is bracing for the conclusion of an investigation into allegations of lockdown breaching parties, a document that could help him end weeks of scandal and discontent or bring his time in office to an abrupt close. Senior civil servant Sue Gray could turn in her report to the government as soon as Wednesday. Johnson's office has promised to publish its findings, and the Prime Minister will address the Parliament about it soon after. She said she couldn't guarantee the government would publish the full report, saying there would be security issues. That means part of it are problematic to publish, but we will absolutely publish the findings of the report. Allegations that Prime Minister and his staff flouted restrictions imposed on the country to curb the spread of coronavirus have caused public anger, led some conservative lawmakers to call for Johnson's resignation, and triggered intense infighting inside the governing party. Johnson has urged his critics to wait for Gray's conclusions, but his wait and see defense weakened Tuesday when police said they had opened a criminal investigation into some of the gatherings. The Partygate allegations have infuriated many in Britain who were barred from meeting with friends and families for months in 2020 and 2021 to curb the spread of COVID-19. Tens of thousands of people were fined by police for breaking the rules. Johnson and his allies have tried without much success to calm a scandal that is consuming government energies that could be better spent confronting the international crisis over Russia's military build-up near Ukraine and a far from finished coronavirus pandemic. The UN chief urged nations Wednesday to greatly boost humanitarian aid for millions of Afghans living in a frozen hell and release nearly $9 billion in frozen assets to pull Afghanistan's economy back from the brink of a collapse that could set off a mass exodus of people fleeing the country. Time is of the essence, Secretary General Antonio Guterres told the Security Council. Without actions, lives will be lost and despair and extremism will grow. Guterres said liquidity must be urgently restored to the Afghan economy. He said that means freeing up country's frozen currency reserves, re-engaging with its central bank and finding other ways to inject money, including allowing international funds to pay the salaries of doctors, teachers, sanitation workers, electricians, and other civil servants. China and Russia reiterated their calls for unfreezing Afghan assets, while US Ambassador Linda Thomas-Greenfield said the Biden administration is examining various options to ease the liquidity crunch. She said the United States, which announced an initial contribution of $308 million in humanitarian aid for Afghanistan on January 11, remains the largest provider of assistance to the country. But she said that much more support from the international community will be required to meet the extraordinary level of need the Afghan people are experiencing. Guterres said the World Bank's Reconstruction Trust Fund for Afghanistan transferred $280 million last month to UN Children's Agency UNICEF and World Food Program. He said remaining $1.2 million should be released urgently to help Afghans survive the winter. Central Asia is central to India's vision of an integrated, stable, extended neighborhood. Prime Minister Narendra Modi said in his opening remarks at the first India Central Asia Summit on Thursday. The summit saw the participation of 5 heads of states: Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyz Republic, Tajikistan, and Turkmenistan. Addressing his counterparts virtually, PM Modi said India's diplomatic ties with Central Asian countries have completed 30 years. Over the past 3 decades, our cooperation has achieved many successes, and now at this crucial juncture, we need an aspirational vision for the years to come, a vision that can fulfill the aspiration of our young people, he said. Prime Minister Modi also said that India and the 5 Central Asian countries share the same concerns and objectives in terms of regional security. Afghanistan was among the key issues discussed during the 3rd edition of the India Central Asia Foreign Ministers Dialogue held in December of last year. Addressing the virtual summit on Thursday, PM Modi proposed a 3-point agenda for the summit. Coordination between India and Central Asia is a must for regional security and stability, he said, adding that the second objective is to give this cooperation an effective structure that can be ensured by regular interaction between different stakeholders at different levels. PM Modi went on to say that the third objective of the India Central Asia Summit is to create an aspirational roadmap. This will enable us to adopt an integrated approach to regional connectivity and cooperation in the next 3 years, he said to his counterparts. Russia said on Thursday it was clear the United States was not willing to address its main security concerns in their standoff over Ukraine but kept the door open for further dialogue. The United States and NATO submitted a written response on Wednesday to demands Russia has made for a redrawing of post-Cold War security arrangements in Europe since it massed troops near Ukraine, provoking Western fears of an invasion. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said Moscow needed time to review the response and would not rush to conclusion, but that US and NATO statements describing Russia's main demands as unacceptable did not leave much room for optimism. Based on what our US and NATO colleagues said yesterday, it is absolutely clear that on the main categories outlined in those draft documents, we cannot say that our thoughts have been taken into account or that a willingness has been shown to take our concerns into account, he said, but we won't rush with our assessments. The nuanced Kremlin reaction made clear that Russia was not rejecting the US and NATO responses out of hand or closing the door to diplomacy. The Russian foreign minister said the best way to reduce tensions was for NATO to withdraw forces from Eastern Europe, but also sought to quash fears of an invasion. The World Health Organization has said the potential danger to humans from neocov, a type of coronavirus that spreads among bats in South Africa, requires further study. WHO said whether the virus detected in the study will pose a risk for humans will require further study, as quoted by news agency. The WHO also said it was working closely with the World Organization for Animal Health, the Food and Agriculture Organization, and the UN Environment Programme to monitor and respond to the threat of emerging zoonotic viruses. Animals, particularly wild animals, are the source of more than 75% of all emerging infectious diseases in humans, many of which are caused by novel viruses. Coronaviruses are often found in animals, including in bats, which have been identified as a natural reservoir of many of these viruses, the WHO said. Neocov is a term loosely being used to refer to a virus variant linked to MERS-CoV. MERS-CoV belongs to the larger coronavirus family and is one of the 7 known coronaviruses that can infect humans. MERS-CoV caused large outbreaks in Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and South Korea during the 2010s. According to World Health Organization, approximately 35% of reported patients with MERS-CoV infection have died. Neocov is a possible variant of this particular coronavirus.